Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known, brought to you by the Bell Project, helping 40,000 or more than 40,000 families with cash bail and trying to get rid of that cash bail system all together. And also brought to you by the March On PAC, a women led PAC that is trying to preserve democracy and put forth the strongest and best Democratic candidates in the field. Lots going on this morning. We start. eh, We talk so much about the videos and body cams, and yet, again, there is absolutely no deterrent for behavior like this.
Slapping a man in a wheelchair.
There are reports that police were called for a reported incident involving the son and wife of the man in the wheelchair, allegedly being threatened by an armed party, I guess. The man admitted that he used a few cuss words and he told the chief, "Get your effing hands off me, get your finger up out of my face." And it sounded like the chief at one point said, "You're not going to talk to me like that," before eventually slapping the man in the wheelchair.
Screaming and hollering, cussing and yelling, and I'm just not going to have it. You're not going to talk to me like that.
It also looks like the chief put the man in a sort of headlock afterwards as well. Also, the mayor cited strained community relationships as a key reason the former chief was let go, and this chief was just recently appointed to replace that guy. Here's what the new chief had to say going into his job.
I want them to be able to call us by first name. I want them to know that they can count on us. When they need us for help, we'll be there.
You're not going to talk to me like that.
Here's a statement from the mayor. Pretty boilerplate, so don't get your hopes up for a proper investigation or proper consequences here. Let's look at a hypothetical to make a point. If this investigation does determine that the chief was in the wrong and even acted illegally, say, then imagine if someone slapped a cop illegally. They would get arrested pretty much immediately. But when the chief does it, there has to be a long investigation. But again, I want more context and information. Now, when cops use force, courts will normally look to things like if a suspect is fleeing, if they pose a threat to safety, the underlying crime at issue, self-defense claims, etc. But I find it hard to think of a scenario where this type of force would have been justified. Again, we don't have all the information and context yet, but it looks like he slapped the guy, which isn't necessarily the best way to get somebody into custody, for example, if that's what he was trying to do. And then he puts this guy in a sort of headlock, but he's in a wheelchair. What's he gonna do? Again, not sure what the chief was trying to accomplish. Maybe before the video started, or maybe during the video and I just can't understand or make out the audio. He told him he was under arrest or something, and to give him his hands and he wasn't complying. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a situation more favorable to the chief here. But even in a scenario like that, the chief's actions don't look good, both legally or from a common sense perspective. And on the other side of things, this could have just been retaliation because the chief got upset at the guy. Because look at this additional video that shows some more of what happened leading up to this.
But you got people out here screaming and hollering, cussing and yelling, and I'm just not going to have it. We can be human beings and we can be adults. But if y'all don't want to act
y'all
that
need
way,
treat folks like human beings.
We do.
No, you don't. Because we want to grab you. You see this damn cap?
I told him.
Don't.
That right there is why you're going to go to jail. You're not going to talk to me like that.
I'll link what other footage I can find so you can see more of this footage and decide for yourself what's going on.
Yeah, what is crazy. He is retaliating, and now we learned that Mayor Joe Harris Jr. has confirmed that Osceola Police Chief Bobby Eflin submitted his resignation yesterday. And he'd only been in the office. He's only been the sheriff for 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks. And you saw, and this is great. That video really breaks it down. I mean, he comes in saying, we want people to call us by our first name. But in his resignation, the former chief, the now former chief, says he felt it was the best thing for him and his family to, quote, step away, adding that he would be available to assist Harris to ensure a smooth transition. Really? The victim in this, Denarius Williams, in a wheelchair. And then you learn from that video, not only did he smack Denarius Williams, but he put him in a headlock. You know, he's in a wheelchair. He can't move. But again, it's once again, it's the fact that there are cameras, people filming, police have body cam, and they're still doing this. Shows you that they fear nothing. And as RNG says, as long as police have qualified immunity and police unions to back them, nothing will happen. He will, even if he's fired, well, he resigned, he will be hired at another police department. And that's just the way it has been, the way it is. And, you know, with all of these, at least pre-Trump advancements in civil liberties and civil rights, nothing has changed when it comes to that. Nothing at all. That's just the facts. And speaking of the president and his administration, this story is really it's bugged out. It's as far out as possible, but nothing when it comes to this administration is apparently there is, you know, Michelle Obama talked about when they go low, there's no low. Vice President J.D. Vance yesterday was confronted with a report that the Pentagon threatened military action against the Vatican, against the Pope. Threatened to use military force. You heard that right, against the Vatican. Because of Pope Leo's, as they say, repeated denunciations of Donald Trump. And what's interesting, another thing that makes it interesting is this Pope happens to be the first U.S. born Pope in history. He's from Chicago. And the officials in the U.S. government threatened him with military action. We're going to bomb the Vatican if he doesn't shut up. That is pretty. I don't even know what you call it at this point. And the fact that you had somebody in the Pentagon, apparently, according to several reports, including Mediaite, the fact that you had somebody bold enough and felt free enough to make this threat tells you everything you need to know about the entire administration. They had a meeting, apparently, according to this report. They invited someone identified as the, quote, Holy See, S-E-E, ambassador to the U.S. Cardinal Christophe Pierre. They wanted to discuss the, quote, recent speech by the Pope. And during this meeting, U.S. officials reportedly complained about the speech and took exception to Pope Leo's shot at the president. And one of those officials referenced the Avignon papacy of the 14th century, which is described as a period that was largely defined by the French crown imposing its will to influence the Catholic Church. And then RNG again puts it in perspective that Pope grandparents are black as me and you. They are from the 7th Ward in New Orleans. They passed as white when they moved to Chicago. Oh, and I forgot about that, to be honest with you, RNG. You're absolutely right. How could you forget, right? I did. I didn't even think about that. But it puts into even more context as to why this administration would confront the Vatican in this with a threat like that. I mean, oh my goodness, folks. It becomes one of those things where you're saying, okay, one of them Bobby Ewing moments where, Pam comes in the shower, to start the new season and realizes it was all just a dream. It was just a dream, a nightmare, and you woke up, you're like, "Oh, thank God that's over. That didn't happen." Unreal. Just unreal. When you think that there's no problem. Oh, man. Y there was a time where people, you had to at least display. You might not like or you might not agree, but you certainly showed the proper respect to people like the Pope. I mean, because they're the Pope. Now we're to a point where you're like, no, we're going to take you out. We're going to take out the Vatican if you don't behave yourself. It's unbelievable stuff that goes on. Unbelievable stuff. Stuff that when history is written, people are going to go, really? You think they say fake news now? Come on. Couple of generations from now, they look back and read this stuff. Nah, come on, that's fake news. There's no way that they allowed that to happen. There's no way. Oh my goodness, I feel bad for the young ones that are coming up today, as they watch the so-called grown-ups destroy any piece of a future they may have. Oh boy, it's just the way it is. RG says Trump is trying to start a holy war with the Pope. Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. He's come in and saying, he's the president of peace. He wants the Nobel Prize. There would be no wars under his watch. And now every day, it seems like every day you wake up and he's attacking somebody else. Boy, oh boy. Switching gears, Diddy's back in court. Diddy's back in court today, folks. And he may listen, this is a strong argument, at least some, and I'm among those some who believe it's a strong argument. And I'm not saying that I'm for or against the man, don't care. But he will appear this morning in federal appeals court challenging his prison sentence. He was acquitted, of course, last year of the more serious charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. But he's arguing that the judge imposed an overly harsh sentence by considering the crimes for which the jury found him not guilty. And I, there are some people who say, well, they can do that or whatever. I don't see how that is legal, how that should be legal. You was acquitted of these, and yet your sentence has to reflect those crimes that you were acquitted. I don't understand that. I didn't understand it at the time, and I don't understand it now. He's serving a 50-month sentence because the district judge acted as a 13th juror, is what his lawyers wrote in their appeal. Orange said he should be able for the First Step Act. Apparently he is, and that's why we keep hearing about his sentence being shortened. Now he's scheduled to get out in 2 years, in April of 2028. But the idea that the judge sentenced him on crimes he was acquitted should alarm people. And again, not because it's Diddy, not because it's a celebrity, not because it's somebody you like or dislike. But you go to court and you fight charges against you, you win. Just think about that. The simplest form, you win, and the judge says, "Well, you know what? The prosecutor said you're a bad person. Those charges are bad charges. You got to pay for those anyway." That's basically what happened with Diddy. So now a panel of judges on the Second Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals is going to hear the sentence challenge, as well as Diddy's bigger argument that he should not have been convicted based on his exploits, which he says are protected under the First Amendment. Diddy is now claiming, his lawyers anyway, are claiming that those freak offs in which they were being filmed to, he was making amateur porn. But that aside, again, the problem that everyone should have, whether you, like I said, whether you like the man, whether you hate the man, whether you don't care about the man, whether you're rich, poor, black, white, is that a judge sentenced Diddy based on crimes he was acquitted of, not crimes that he was convicted of, but crimes that he was acquitted of. Now, lawyers for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan, and you never trust those guys. I'm sorry. When you had folks serving in Manhattan that tell you that accusations should be good enough for a conviction, that's a problem. But the U.S. Attorney's Office had asked for an 11-year sentence. And they say, of course, that the judge was correct in taking into account the, quote, violent way that Diddy treated his victims when handing down his sentence. And they say, according to Diddy, the court should have closed his eyes to how he carried out his offenses and abused his victims, violently beating them, threatening them, lying to them, and plying them with drugs. Folks, you didn't prove any of that. You never brought up. They never brought up the domestic violence, which I thought was crazy in itself. I mean, we all saw the video of him beating Cassie. But they never used that. They never charged him with that. And now you want him sentenced for it. Well, why did you charge him with it? Because the charges in which you brought, most of them he was acquitted of. The ones that he was found guilty of had nothing to do with violence. They acquitted him on the charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, finding him guilty of 2 lesser counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. That doesn't suggest the violence that they're talking about. We know he was violent toward Cassie, but that's the only proof we have. The only person that we have that he was violent. The only proof that he was violent toward anyone. Now, I'm saying he wasn't. There are lots of people saying he was violent toward Kim Porter and others, but the only proof that we have, and the only charge, well, he wasn't even charged. So the sentence is 50 months, but he's in court today, Dr. Nicole, as you note, Johnny come lately. So, okay, the question becomes, was his sentence within the range of those he was actually convicted of? And that's one of his arguments too. Generally, a conviction on prostitution charges, the ones that he was convicted on, generally carries a fine and at worst probation. Generally, now of course, a judge has a discretion. And then the bringing people across state lines, that could get you in trouble. to carry out an illegal act, and prostitution fits under that as an illegal act. Um, but the judge said that he was able to get away with violent and abusive conduct for years, so he's given him 50 months in prison. You never proved that in a court. It's not saying it didn't happen. Right, right, Orangey. No sympathy for Diddy, but fair sentencing for black people is a myth. In fact, I go even further, Orangey. It's not a myth. It just doesn't happen. I don't think anybody ever said that black folks get fair sentencing or fair treatment in courts. I just find it incredible that well, I don't find it incredible. Let me rephrase that, because we are talking about Diddy, but it should have raised some eyebrows. The same again, I guess when you pick, or when it's unpopular people involved, it's easy to just to say, dismiss it, like with Bill Cosby and that whole farce of a case. It was a farce. And I'm again not saying that, I'm not talking about innocence or guilt. I'm saying allow for a fair trial, allow for innocence or guilt. In fact, we know in the Cosby case, when the case was thrown out, the Supreme Court said that should never have been brought in the first place. Dr. Nicole says, so as long as it was within the judge's discretion, do not see no problem. I never understood why they did not charge him with domestic violence. Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't charge him with domestic violence. There was never any explanation for that, and whoever covered, I wasn't there in Manhattan to cover it, in person, so I didn't get a chance to question the prosecutors. Generally, they hold a press conference afterwards. In this case, they held a few press conferences in New York. And whoever the journalists were, either they didn't think to ask or they just wasn't interested. RNG mentions the statute of limitations, and that goes out the window too, because that's another thing that nobody talks about, and I hate harping on this. Nobody talks about in the Bill Cosby case. One of the arguments that was put forth, and that was, they even had almost like you could say a mini trial. And I thought this was so interesting. That's why I wish that trial was broadcast. Because one of the arguments was that the statute of limitations, even if there was some sort of crime against Andrea Constant, the individual that he went to prison for, wrongfully went to prison for, that even if there was something, the statute had run out. So they had a mini trial. And I'll never forget, the most credible witness in the two trials of Bill Cosby. The first one, of course, it was a hung jury. He didn't even put on a defense, and the jury was 10-2 in favor of acquittal. And then there was a second trial in which that jury was poisoned from the beginning. But they put on these witnesses about the timeline, including Andrea Constant herself. And I'm sitting there going, okay, this is interesting. Every single witness just about was flawed, except for one man, one elderly black man who used to be the chef for Bill Cosby. Now, the statute of limitations in that case, it was set to, it expired basically in January, I believe, of a particular year. And this chef comes on and he testified. He knew about the Andrea Constant situation. He knew about He knew her. He knew about her and her coming, her talking with Bill, and they being at Temple University, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the night that the alleged incident happened, in which he gave her the Benadryl tablets, because she said that she was, and this is her testimony, folks. This is not any spin. Her testimony was that I was edgy. I was trying to figure stuff out. She was talking about quitting Temple and going back to Canada. And she wanted Cosby to help her to calm down. And she was, as in her own words, jittery and upset. Couldn't stay still. And Cosby says, put these down. They help me before I go on stage. And he gave her 1.5 tablets of Benadryl. Not Quaaludes, Benadryl. And that's her own testimony. Nonetheless, the point is, this elderly black man who was the chef, it was his last day working for Bill Cosby. So he remembered it vividly. And he asked them if they needed anything. He said they were cozy on the couch. And Andrea Constant just asked for, I believe she asked for a glass of water. And that was it, to take the Benadryl. The chef gave her the glass of water. And she left. That happened in May of that year, almost 5 months after the statute of limitations would have run out. They cross-examined him, and nobody contested the fact that it happened in May. So, again, the statute of limitations situation. That was another reason why that trial should not have gone on, too. But, again, going back to RNG's comment about fair sentencing, fair due process is a myth when it comes to black folks. Yeah, again, no, there's absolutely no sympathy for Diddy, because at the very least, and again, we say he wasn't charged with it, but at the very least, we saw him beat the mess out of Cassie, which should have put him in jail anyway. So there's no sympathy. It's just crazy that to see the court system, to actually see it being abused by a judge and prosecutors, it's troublesome for anybody any African American, any Latino, any minority. It's very troubling. It should be anyway. And what better segue from Diddy? It's become hand in hand. When you say Diddy, you got to say 50 Cent. And the reason why we got to say 50 Cent in this situation is because people thought this was an April Fool's joke, but it's real. Curtis Jackson, of course, known as 50 Cent, announced that Hulu had paid $75 million for a documentary about his life. They outbid Starz, Netflix, and Apple. And given his well-known reputation for trolling on social media, not many people thought he was being serious. But Hulu has officially greenlit an untitled 3-part documentary series that is centered on the life of 50 Cent. Unlike the many projects that 50 has produced for others over the years, including the one recently about Diddy, this one puts 50 in the spotlight as the subject of the documentary. The series will take a look at his full life, according to Hulu, from his childhood in South Jamaica, Queens, to surviving being shot 9 times, to the release of his landmark debut album, Get Rich or Die Trying, in 2003. So 50 people followed his Power franchise on Starz, and then that Raising Canaan. The documentary is expected to pull back the curtains on the real life behind all of the narratives by giving folks a first-hand look at the man behind the brand. You know, he built G Unit Film and Television into a series production operation for the better part of a decade. He's developed projects for other artists and storytellers. And now his own story is taking center stage. So 50 Cent, he says, RG says 50 Cent will always hold the biggest L. He let a bisexual man, Diddy, take his baby mama and dip her in baby oil. Is that why he's so angry, RG? Is that why he just is so relentless when it comes to Diddy? Non-stop. It's like he eat, sleep, and drink Diddy. He talks and he goes at Diddy so much. 50 got some of that baby oil on him. He's he's always talking about Diddy, and he says yes, it is. So it makes sense because I've always said, what is the real deal here? Because no man, no grown man, continue repeatedly, nonstop, talks about another grown man the way, whether it's in anger or in love, but it's all in anger and trolling the way 50 does Diddy. It's always been perplexing to me, but it makes sense, especially from the way RNG puts it, especially from somebody like a 50 Cent who this alpha male, this man's man, and to have a man who is like Diddy, who truly is interested in other men, take his baby mama and as RG says, dip her in baby oil. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. it's, it's like the mafia type thing, right? You can't go against the family. In this case, you can't. You just can't let that ride. It's a street thing, right? You can't let that one ride. Yeah, 50 he chose everybody, but Diddy, he seemed to be obsessed with Diddy. Allegedly, his baby mama filed a case against 50. Wow. Okay. See, it's a whole lot of mess, and that's why 50. Yeah, and 50 does troll everybody, Dr. Nicole. But the Diddy thing, there's been this obsession, and maybe now his own stuff coming out, he'll promote that properly without because he's not going to troll himself. Unbelievable. 50 Cent is diabolical. There's no question about it. Trixie says it was a domestic incident. Huh? Okay. So domestic as in him physically assaulting his baby mom? What is with that? These guys, the egos, the small minds, the idea of raising your hand, and we saw it with Diddy in one of the worst ways to these women. It's like, dude, move on. Let her live her life. It's about control. And these guys get to the point where they feel like they should have and can have anything they want, anyone they want. Nobody's supposed to say no. It's a mindset. And it's no matter what it is. I always remember, among so many other things, with the Michael movie coming out, and it's a great movie. I got to tell you, it's a great, great movie. I always remember a conversation I had with Joseph Jackson. One of the many conversations I had with him, and he was on his way to South Africa, and this was in 2001. And this was just before the Michael's 30th anniversary concert. It was like 2 months before. It was July, late July, early August. And the concert was September 8th and September 10th. And it was a huge blow up between Michael and Jermaine, and um, Jermaine, Catherine, and Joseph drive to Neverland to try and smooth things out. And they're on the phone. They called me up, and we're talking about it. What, how should we handle it media wise? I'm journalist, and I'm helping them with the PR on this to try and get them, get Jermaine back in good graces, because David Guest, who was producing the show, put out a statement. Oh, Michael wishes Jermaine well in his solo career, basically, blah, blah, blah. And so Michael wouldn't let them in Neverland. It's a long story short. And so they had to drive all the way back to Encino. And so in the car, we were talking, and Joseph's like, okay, can you help draft a statement essentially saying that we're together, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I can help you with that. I'm in New Rochelle, New York, and I'm working. And about 5 different times, Joseph calls me up, and he called me Brown. Yeah, you got that right? Hold on, I'm working. I'll get to it. I need it now. Wait, I don't work for you. And I said that to him, and he always told me how much he respected that. That I just simply came out and said it, because I was at the moment I was in the middle of something, and it's like the 5th time he had called me, and I was like at my breaking point. I was like, listen, I don't work for you, Joe. Well, I just want it done. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going to South Africa. Okay, it'll get done when it get done. And then of course Jermaine calls me up and like, Joseph really wants us to get this done. And whatever. I'm like, okay, I just talked to your father. And so anyway, we ultimately got it done, but at my pace. And the point is, they expect you to say yes to everything, and you got to stand up, and they respect that when you stand up. Now, when it comes to the women part, the women are not. They're not to stand up. They're not to say anything. They're not to say no. They're not to. And it's crazy. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it there. I've seen it. Without naming names, certainly from so many others, not named Jackson. And it's like, wow. And what kills me every time is the women. I used to always say, wow, they don't want to do this, but they're doing it. Why? But it's more than just the physical abuse. It's also the psychological abuse. And I mean, in some cases, can they just leave? In some cases, but not in all cases. And they should never be put in that position in the first place. I'm going to turn my attention now to sports. It's something, I was inspired. I'll be totally transparent. I was inspired by Orange G's post on this because I missed this yesterday. And it was a big day in history yesterday, folks. And it was Hammer and Hank. Yesterday was the anniversary of this historic moment when Henry Aaron in 1974, fourth in home run off of Al Downing of the Dodgers, gave him his 715th career home run, breaking Babe Ruth's long-standing record on baseball's all-time list. It came on the heels of an opening day blast against the Reds' Jack Bellingham that left him tied with Ruth. Hank Aaron would go on to hit 40 more home runs over the course of the rest of the next season, of the 74 season, I should say, and then the 75-76 campaigns with the Brewers. He had 755 for his career. His 2,297 runs batted in and 6,856 total bases are still major league records. And every time you hear Babe Ruth was the greatest, always remember this. Babe Ruth was, if you've seen any clips of Babe Ruth, this beer belly guy couldn't run, Didn't play the field. Yes, he pitched at a point. He was a decent pitcher. He was not even close to the greatest. To that point, he was the greatest home run hitter. But Henry Aaron was a Gold Glover. He could run the bases. He uh, hit for a high average. There's arguments from some that Henry Aaron is the greatest to ever play. My opinion is that Willie Mays is the greatest to ever play. Willie had 666 home runs over his career, and he played in 3 ballparks that was the most difficult to hit home runs out of. The Polo Grounds in New York, Candlestick Park in San Francisco, and then the last 2 years of his career, he played at Shea Stadium in New York with the Mets. And yet, he still managed 666 home runs. And Willie also, like Muhammad Ali, had to take off time to serve in the military. And nobody played center field like Willie Mays. Nobody. In fact, I will dare say the closest I've ever seen anybody come to play in center field the way Willie Mays played it was Carlos Beltran, who this year was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame and will have his number retired by the New York Mets this coming September. But to me, Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Barry Bonds, who happens to be the son of Bobby Bonds, another superstar, and the godson of Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, I would argue, might even have been better than Willie Mays. So they want to. This is why you hear Shohei Ohtani. Anybody but a black person. Listen, I always argue that is why Taylor Swift is so popular, because they can't stomach that a black woman, Beyonce, is the best. They can't stomach that. That's how I see it. That's the way it is. Who used to say that? Somebody used to say that, Orangey. That's the way it is. So we've been talking about in the last few weeks black travel on the international front, and that's cool. The best places for black folks if they're going out of the country. What about inside the country? Well, Travel with Meg. Let's check her out as she takes us to some of the best destinations inside the U.S.
Somewhere new is more than finding a good apartment. It's about finding community, safety, and a place where you can thrive, not just survive. You look for barbershops, the right Yolof, and you scan for signs that you'll be welcomed, respected, and represented. It's about seeing black excellence in leadership, business, and culture, and knowing your kids can grow up proud and supported. That's what this video is all about. We've researched, listened, and gathered the data. Here are the top 10 U.S. cities where black people feel welcome and safe, based on culture, opportunity, and community. Let's get started. Number 10 is Charlotte, North Carolina. Known for its booming finance and tech sectors, Charlotte is quickly becoming a magnet for black professionals and families. The city's Juneteenth Festival of the Carolinas is one of the nation's largest, celebrating black culture and history in a big way. Black-owned businesses are thriving, and there's a real lift as we climb mentality. Community groups actively support black entrepreneurs. The job market is strong, and the cost of living is still reasonable, making homeownership and wealth building possible. Neighborhoods are safe, family-friendly, and full of identity. Whether you want suburban peace or city energy, you'll find your fit. Charlotte's story is still being written, but it's clear. This is a city where you can build a career, raise a family, and be part of a vibrant black community. It's not just about history, it's about building a more inclusive future. That's why Charlotte lands at number 10. The energy here is real, and black people are at the heart of the city's transformation. If you're looking for opportunity and community, Charlotte is a place to watch. Let's see who's next. Number 9 is Washington, D.C., the legendary chocolate city. D.C. isn't just politics and monuments, it's a living hub of Black culture, intellect, and power. Historic neighborhoods like Shaw and LeDroit Park pulse with legacy, and Howard University anchors the city's intellectual and cultural gravity. Despite gentrification, the Black community remains resilient and vibrant, blending old-school roots with new waves of professionals. Go-go music, Black-owned restaurants, and debates over mumbo sauce are all part of daily life. DC is a place where Black culture isn't just present, it's central. Opportunities abound in government, tech, and nonprofits, and the city's institutions foster excellence and ambition. Yes, affordability is a challenge, but the sense of pride and community is unmatched. Here you're not searching for culture, you're living inside it. DC is a city of opportunity, history, and pride. For its enduring legacy and dynamic Black community, DC is number 9. Let's keep moving. Next up, a city where Black excellence is the standard. Number 8, Atlanta, Georgia, the Black Mecca. Here, Black leadership is visible everywhere, from City Hall to corporate boardrooms. Atlanta normalizes Black excellence, creating an environment where aspiration is the norm. The city is a global trendsetter in music, arts, and business, home to Tyler Perry Studios and a thriving hip-hop scene. HBCUs like Morehouse and Spelman draw top talent and fuel the city's energy. Neighborhoods like Cascade and Collier Heights offer safety, prosperity, and a strong sense of community. Atlanta's challenges, traffic, and rising costs are the price of success. But its cultural influence and concentration of Black power are unmatched. Here, Black culture is the mainstream. Atlanta is a beacon for what's possible. For its legacy, leadership, and culture, Atlanta is a titan at number 8. Let's see where the future is being built next. On to number 7. Number 7 is Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, the Research Triangle. Anchored by top universities and a booming tech sector, this region is a magnet for Black professionals. There's a strong network of Black engineers, MBAs, and entrepreneurs, making it easy to find mentorship and community. The cost of living is reasonable, schools are excellent, and the quality of life is high. Durham's Haiti district, once Black Wall Street, is seeing a resurgence of Black-owned businesses and cultural pride. The Triangle offers a blueprint for a diverse, educated, and thriving Black community. It's a place for innovators and families alike. For its balance of opportunity, history, and community, Raleigh-Durham is number 7. Let's head west for number 6. Number 6, Seattle, Washington. Once known for its small Black population, Seattle is now home to a growing, connected Black tech community. Major companies and local organizations are investing in Black talent, creating real opportunities. The Central District's Black heritage is being preserved through museums and festivals like Umoja Fest. Seattle's progressive politics mean real conversations and action on equity and justice. Black-owned businesses are supported, and the city's natural beauty offers a unique quality of life. It's a place for intentional living, with a focus on community and opportunity. Seattle may be different from other cities on this list, but it's actively building a more inclusive future. For its forward-thinking approach and growing community, Seattle is number 6. Next, we're heading to Texas. Number 5, Dallas, Texas. Dallas is booming, with one of the fastest-growing Black populations in the country. The city's Black community is tight-knit, with strong networks in neighborhoods, churches, and cultural events. Black entrepreneurship is thriving, especially in areas like Bishop Arts and Deep Ellum. The arts scene is vibrant, and Black creativity is celebrated citywide. Dallas offers affordable living, a strong job market, and a range of lifestyle options. It's a place where you can build wealth, community, and a future. Dallas combines big city opportunity with deep-rooted Black culture. For its blend of economic power and community spirit, Dallas is number 5. Let's see what Houston has to offer. Number 4, Houston, Texas. Houston's Black community is massive and incredibly diverse, with deep Southern roots and vibrant African and Caribbean populations. The city's food, music, and culture reflect this rich tapestry. Houston's job market is strong, and housing is some of the most affordable in any major U.S. city. Black political and business leadership is visible and influential. Neighborhoods like Third Ward and Pearland offer history, pride, and opportunity. Community identity is strong, and there's a real sense of belonging. Houston is a city where you can build a life, a business, and a legacy. For its diversity, affordability, and opportunity, Houston is number 4. Now, let's head to a city rewriting its own story. Number 3 is up next. Number 3, Richmond, Virginia. Once the capital of the Confederacy, Richmond is now a center for Black culture, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Jackson Ward's legacy as the Harlem of the South is fueling a new renaissance of Black-owned businesses and art. The city is affordable, with beautiful historic neighborhoods and a strong sense of community. Murals, music, and food tell the story of a city in transformation. Richmond is reclaiming its narrative, honoring the past while building a future centered on equity and creativity. It's a place where you can start something new and find support. For its transformation and thriving Black spirit, Richmond is number 3. Now for a city that's become a symbol of resilience. Number 2, Minneapolis, Minnesota. After the murder of George Floyd, Minneapolis became a global center for racial justice activism. The Black community here is mobilized, interconnected, and leading the charge for change. Strong networks of mutual aid, activism, and support make this a city where people show up for each other. The North Side has deep Black roots, with legacy institutions and a proud history. The arts scene is vibrant. Minneapolis gave us Prince, and Black creativity thrives in music, theater, and beyond. The job market is diverse, and there's real investment in Black-owned businesses and generational wealth. Family life is great, with parks, lakes, and good schools. Minneapolis is a city of contrasts, but also of immense heart and resilience. For its powerful networks and fight for equity, Minneapolis is number 2. And now, our number 1 city, let's go. Number 1, Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore is unapologetically Black, with a majority Black population and a deep history of Black leadership. The city's culture is everywhere, in the food, music, language, and legendary neighborhoods. Community is everything here. Generations live on the same block, and neighbors look out for each other. HBCUs like Morgan State and Coppin State, and institutions like the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, anchor the city's Black identity. Yes, Baltimore faces challenges, but the narrative is changing, led by Black artists, entrepreneurs, and community leaders. There's a creative renaissance happening, and the city's spirit is unbreakable. In Baltimore, you don't have to code switch, you can just be. It's a city of pride, authenticity, and deep community roots. For its rich history, community pride, and authentic soul, Baltimore is our number 1 city. If you want to feel at home, Baltimore is the place. That's our list. But before you go, let's talk about what home means to you.
Well, there you go. Baltimore. Wow. I was surprised that Minneapolis was on that list. Isn't that something? That's one city I have never been to, not even in the airport. It's rare. But that's a pretty cool list. Thought we'd enjoy some Black travel. How about that? Places where, at least according to Explore with Meg, that is where Black people will be more than welcome. And you're always more than welcome on Let It Be Known. We will be here again tomorrow and bringing you some more straight talk, I guess you can call it. Thanks for.
Let's go! Let's go, Flav. Hey!